While Operation Teapot, Operation Q, and Project East River were all government projects, this really got the ball rolling in terms of individuals thinking about and producing war and violent conflict in a variety of other environments, particularly in the entertainment industry. We see, following Masco, the prevalence of nuclear weapons being represented in Hollywood and media. In 1983, ABC released a made-for-TV movie that is purportedly the most watched television movie in history with over 100 million initial viewers. It's called The Day After, and it portrayed in very graphic terms the impacts of a nuclear war, and essentially everyone who was in the path or even around the blast was almost immediately destroyed by the blast. The survivors were left to fend for themselves in a very dark future. There was a Ronald Reagan impersonator voice that was on there, assuring the Americans that remained to be secure and that things were going to get better at some point. And this was, a lot of people looked at this as in reaction to a lot of the discussions that were going on during the time period with President Ronald Reagan and his discussions about a winnable nuclear war. This was the SDI, or the Strategic Defense Initiative, or Star Wars, the idea that intercontinental ballistic missiles could be intercepted in space, rendering no harm to civilian populations on U.S. soil. This was at the height of the Cold War and an escalating arms race of what some have referred to as MAD, or mutually assured destruction, if nuclear weapons were to be utilized. So the Strategic Defense Initiative, or Star Wars, lasted over the course of 25 years, and expenses range up to estimates of $100 billion. And it served, according to Masco, the emotional needs of its constituency well. And this is what we were talking about earlier, too, in terms of militarization and the production of bombs and weapons, as well as defense. This provides some sort of security for the populace in terms of, we talked about Benary and Fruitstock's work in Japan on the live fire exercises there, and how that served the emotional needs of the constituency, that the state could effectively protect its citizens. More recently, we've seen an upswing in the representation of nuclear weapons as potentially saving humanity. We see this in films such as Armageddon in 1998, Deep Impact also in 1988, The Core in 2003, and Arctic Storm in 2008, which was a made-for-television sci-fi movie. In addition to the portrayal of nuclear weapons, we also see in the media, in a variety of different contexts, the destruction of New York City, or the potential destruction of New York City. And in a lot of ways, this mirrors some of the official documents that were coming out from the Federal Civil Defense Agency, as you can see at the very top right corner. But a wide range of audiences for this, Cloverfield, an old film from the 1950s, Gone with the Wind from 1975. Even Spider-Man and Sesame Street get in on the destruction of New York City, and particularly the World Trade Center. So Masco argues that 9/11 becomes strangely familiar, and in a way this, all of these media representations emotionally prepare us potentially, at least in some senses, for the eventuality of a said attack. So overall in this lecture we talked about the extent of war. We looked at weapons of mass destruction as defined both by the United Nations as well as the United States, as well as some of the efforts done at the international level to control the spread of weapons of mass destruction. We talked very specifically about Masco's 2008 article, Survival is Your Business, Engineering Ruins and Effect in Nuclear America, with particular emphasis on Operation Q, the notion of avoiding internal dissent overall, and then Hollywood and media representations of war, violent conflict, and nuclear weapons.